Welcome back to your power call. Welcome back to your power call. To all new members, welcome to your power call. All returning and continuing members, welcome back to your power call. I appreciate you all tapping in. I appreciate those who came in early. It's better to be early than it is to be late. So I appreciate you all tapping in. Let me show y'all can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. You can see me. Let me turn this echo off here. Again, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to your power call. I appreciate you all tapping in to your power call. As always, it's a pleasure to be able to be with the family once again this morning. So we welcome you back to your power call. If we have any first time guests, welcome to your power call. Let me make sure I got everybody can see me. If you're on the Vimeo side, can you see me? Can you hear me? Let me make sure my chat is turned on that side as well. Give me one moment. Let's make sure we can see and hear, and we are ready to go. I know the screen is a little awkward on the other side as well, but I just want to make sure my chat is refreshed on the Vimeo side so we can make sure everybody is receiving and hearing the same message. But yes, I appreciate everyone tapping in. If it be by the will of Allah, everyone had a good evening last night, and continuing to have a good morning. Be sure to, if you would like to upgrade, go to www.powercall.net. If you would like to visit your local Muhammad Mosque study group, go to www.noistudygroup.com. All right. Okay, they can see me, they can hear me. Okay, great. Praise be to Allah. All right. We are in store for the second half, part 2 of Problem in Relationships. Yesterday was informative, electrifying as always, a great reminder for us. We're going to finish it up today. We appreciate all of the feedback, all of the takeaways that we got yesterday. For those who couldn't share yesterday, please feel free to share today. If you have not shared at all on the power calls, be sure to utilize that power call testimonials space within the app to share your feedback, because we love to hear the feedback. We love to be able to interact with each other and see what we all are learning, what we all are pulling from these lectures, and how they're impacting our life as well, because we all learn from each other. We all have that big room that we all can utilize, which is that room for improvement. So I appreciate you all tapping in as always. Those just coming in, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to your power call. And without further ado, as we always do, as it is customary, we're going to begin in prayer. So please take the position of prayer that is most comfortable for you. All right. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, surely I turn myself, being upright, to Him who originated the heavens and the earth, and I am not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. No associate has He, and this I am commanded, and I am thy servant. O Allah, thou art the King. There is no God but thee. Thou art the Lord, and I am thy servant. I have been unjust to myself, and I confess my faults. So grant me protection against all my faults, for none grants protection against faults but thee. And guide me to the best of morals, for none guides to the best of morals but thee. And turn me away from the evil and indecent morals, for none turns away evil and indecent morals but thee. O Allah, make Muhammad successful, and the true followers of Muhammad successful, as thou did make Abraham successful, and the true followers of Abraham successful, for surely thou art praiseworthy and magnified. And O Allah, bless Muhammad and the true followers of Muhammad, as thou did bless Abraham and the true followers of Abraham, for surely thou art praiseworthy and magnified. Ameen. Once again, welcome back to your power call. Do we have anyone here for their first time? Whether you're on the Vimeo side or the premium side, please press the number 1 if this is your first time on the power call. Maybe your second time. If your first time was yesterday, I don't think I asked for this as well. But we want to make sure we're getting this engagement in. See if we're doing the fishing. See if we're inviting. See if we are sharing what we are appreciating and reflecting as powerful for us on a day-to-day basis. Do we have anyone that's new on the power call? Please press the number 1 in the chat if you are. Okay. All right. Keep inviting, family. Keep on inviting and bringing individuals in on what you feel is impacting you, because it's all about sharing these teachings. It's all about exposing our family, our friends, those we come in contact with on a regular basis with what is helping us every day. So be sure to invite those who aren't aware of the power call, aren't aware of the teachings. Give them a little appetizer, a little something to whet the appetite. But also invite them to your local Muhammad Massa study group. If you're not aware of where the local Muhammad Massa study group that is nearest to you, please go to www.noistudygroup.com. Fill out the form. The sister will reach out to you as soon as possible with the location information and times for the local Muhammad Massa study group in your locality. Tomorrow is Friday, so we have self-improvement study group tomorrow. So come on out, see for yourself, learn from some of those believers that are in your area, those who are coming and visiting and learning and getting exposed to these teachings, and come out on Sunday for the public meeting as well. Be able to continue to expose and continue to further your studies and understanding of these teachings. Many of us have questions. I know I still have questions every day. I ask questions as much as I can because I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to mature in these teachings. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable and be able to speak on what you feel you may not understand, what you feel you have understanding on, because we all are in the classroom of God. So we all can benefit from receiving proper understanding, receiving these teachings in a proper way as well. So come on out. If you are receiving this link from somebody and you're not in the app, please go to www.powercall.net. Get on the app. If you'd like to upgrade, join and upgrade as well, so that you can participate on the live calls, participate in the classes that we have available, participate in the courses we have available as well. But all of this is about the fellowship and communion, to come together, be able to study together, be able to listen to these lectures together and learn together. So without further ado, I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get on to part 2 of our lecture, the problems in relationships, part 2, as delivered by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
And some of them want to stay on it now at 40. Excuse me. Any resemblance to any persons, you know what I mean, living or dead, is certainly not a coincidence. Shall we move on now? Where was I? Oh. I know where I was. I'm moving away from there as quickly as possible. No. And so, beloved, in my home, I needed that. I needed that cuddling. I needed that warmth. So I grew up thinking that my mom didn't love me because I didn't relate the warm clothes, the clean bed, the 3 meals a day, and working to put me and my brother into music. I didn't relate that to love because I was too immature to understand the depth and the breadth of love, so I thought my mom didn't love me. And how many of you have come up in your house thinking that your own mother didn't love you, even when she did, and sometimes you begin to feel she didn't love you and you had reason. I thought I had a reason. My brother's real dark. Here's my brother. Stand up, Brother Albert. This is my brother. He's really my half-brother because his father is not my father. But my mother never allowed us to think of two different men. We were one in her. But since neither his father nor my father sent her a dime, she pulled the plug on both of them for us. Huh? Now my brother is dark and my mom is dark. I'm light, as you can see. But then I begin to think my mom liked him more because he was more her color. And he began to think she liked me more because I was light. So all the while growing up, he and I, as brothers, never related right. Our relationship was not good. Because when she would leave, I mean, he had a chance then to whoop the hell out of me. To work off some of that frustration, you know what I mean? And since I couldn't whip him, all I could do was go to God. And as a little boy, see, I had a relationship with God. And that's what has been my strength all my life. If I didn't think my mom loved me, I didn't think my brother loved me, I didn't have nobody else in the family, I had to find somewhere to relate because I didn't think that I had the wonderful brother that I now know I have. And I didn't think I had the wonderful mother that I now know that I have. But I was going through that trauma. How many of you went through trauma like that as a young person? Because of your color, you think your mother liked this one more because that one's lighter or this one's darker and this and that and the other. And because of color, man, you don't have a good relationship with your sister or with your brother. And then maybe there's two fathers and one father would come by and he would relate only to the one that he's related to. And your father wouldn't come by, wouldn't call. So that would make the other one that got a father come by and brought him some shoes, he would wear them shoes real funny around you. Then you'd want to stomp him and throw the shoes out the window. So you all got to hate each other because of improper relationships. Over needs unfulfilled, over pain. Lord, have mercy. And then when you put that into the sick environment of a sex-crazed world where people don't know what a woman is, they think a woman is something to play with because she gives man pleasure at a certain stage of her development. But there's pleasure in her for man that man has never found because he's never matured enough to know how to call it. And so he's unfulfilled in his relationship with you. You married right now and unhappy. You've been with your husband 10 years and you wish to hell you could get away from it, but you ain't got no other. I mean, you know, you looking at other men, but what the hell? Oh, I might as well stick here for the children's sake. And he feel the same way about you. Don't kid yourself. I'm getting the hell out of this. That's why it's called honeymoon, and it don't last long. The honey hardly falls over the moon before that thing is over, brother. Y'all all right? Well, maybe I should try to move as quickly through this as possible because I didn't write any notes on what God was showing me. But I wanted to tell you something to help you to see yourself by looking at me. Yes, sir. Children want to please their parents because their world first is their parents, not God. They learn God through their parents. So their first world is their parents, and if that relationship is not secure, you've damaged the child. Is that right? My mother gave me the violin when I was 5 years old, and my brother the piano. I didn't know when she gave me the violin. I was a little boy, 5.5 years old, so I couldn't reject the violin, you know. But even at that age, you know, I heard that violin is for sissies. And I didn't want to be linked to that kind of thing, you know. But mom was so strong, you know, and she used that stick with regularity. So I had to go on to the teacher and learn to play this violin. But when I began to play it, I got so much satisfaction from it that I found a reason to live. I found a way to be loved. A way to be loved. Are you listening to me? Any resemblance, brothers and sisters, I'm trying to help you to deal with you. Because the problem ain't nowhere else. Your problem ain't with nobody else. It's now with you. Mine is with me. And we got to fix up these relationships. Starting first with self and a relationship now to our Creator. That's number one. Okay? Now listen to this. When I would go out to play my violin, my brother accompanied me on the piano, people would come from miles around to hear us play. I mean, we were really good. And that's I'm looking for Mom. I'm playing. I've been practicing all week with that stick over my head. Now I'm playing. I'm looking to see if Mom is going to show me approval. My mother's this kind of woman. She don't care who hollers. She sat with her arms folded with a little smile on her face. She was proud inside, but she didn't know how. Because of the way she was reared, she didn't know psychology. She didn't know the workings of the mind. She didn't know none of that. So she didn't know how to smile and let me know, my son, I'm proud of you, boy. So I didn't care how many other people was hollering and applauding. I'm looking for Mama. But Mama wasn't applauding. It's like you did something wrong, see? So I go back home, she had a stick waiting. All right, boy, get up there and make it perfect. So I play some more. By the time I got to be 10, 11, 12, I was playing so well. Now I didn't need anybody to tell me to practice. I would practice 4, 5, 6 hours a day. Now I'm getting into this thing because I found my reason for existence. I was fast as lightning on track. But Mama didn't care too much about sports, so she never came to see me run. See, I'm looking for approval. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I want approval. I want to know that I'm loved. I want to know that I'm all right. But if I can't get it from my mother, then I got to look elsewhere. So when I met my boys, me and my boys hung out. And that's why you can't get your children away from the boy on the corner or the girl around the block, because she's giving them something that they never found at home. She's giving them a relationship. The gang is giving them a relationship that makes them feel secure. And when you try to break it up, you're trying to break up that which gives your young son or your daughter a reason for feeling I belong somewhere, even if I don't belong here. Ain't that something? And you're like my mother. You don't know nothing about the workings of the mind. My mother's a perfectionist. She was a clean woman. She was so orderly, so organized. She knew where everything was. I don't know right now how much money's in my pocket. My mother knew how much money was in her change purse, how much money was in the pocket, how many pennies she had. I couldn't rip her off of a penny. And you know, children, they slip into their mama's purses when they... Didn't you do it, brothers? Maybe there wasn't nothing there, but I mean, my mom had a few pennies in there. You could get so much for a penny in those days. Maybe if you took some money today, it would definitely come up missing. But we could buy so much candy for a penny, brother. We would lay in the candy store, you know, but Mom was too clever. She would put cookies in the jar, and she would know how many cookies was in the jar. So if she came back and told us, don't touch the cookies, we would eat the cookies and fluff up the jar thinking Mama would know. Mom would beat the hell out of us that night, boy, 'cause she knew the cookies in the jar, brother. Why am I saying all of that? You see, when you need love, when you need cuddling, when you need approval, you're put at a disadvantage. Because depending on where you find it, could be your destruction. If you find your security in a gang that's going nowhere, then they suck you in because you couldn't find security at home. If you find it in girls that are not doing right, not wishing to go right, even if there's right in you, but your peer pressure is so strong, then they could lead you off in a direction that you may never recover from. But you see, my mother, by giving me music and watching my relationships with others, and I got to relate to this wood so tough till I'd beat your brains out if you touch my instrument. That was my life now. Don't separate me from this, because this is my reason to live. Do you understand what I'm saying? When my mom would say, Gene, they call me Gene, mop the floor, do this and do that. I would mop, I would do the best I could. But her eye is so sharp. She comes in, she spots that corner that I missed. She don't tell me about all this that I did right. She go immediately to what I didn't do and say, did you see this corner? Did you see that? Well, no, Ma, I was just... Well, boy, get in that corner and clean the corner. The thing ain't ready, the thing ain't right if it ain't clean. So, when you don't tell the child what it did good, and then help it to see what it missed, you got to build them up before you tear them down. But if you've been torn down all your life by your mother, what do you know to do for your children but tear them down? And as black people, you don't know how to rear no children. You don't know how to make and rear children, black woman. You know how to have sex and produce a monster, but to make a child for God, you don't know that. I don't give a damn if you got a doctorate degree hanging off your neck. You don't know how to make no child. And that's why the Muslim girls training and general civilization class is a must for every black woman, whether you have a doctorate degree or know nothing. Somebody got to teach you, black woman, because you don't know what you're doing. With all your knowledge, you don't know. And if you want to know better, let God instruct you how to do it now. I'm almost finished. A need for approval. Do you know what that means? That means that when you tear your child down at every little thing that it attempts to do, you don't know how to build them up. But every time you point out it's wrong, you're crushing what they call ego. But it's not ego. It's really the God on the inside of you that needs evolving and developing, so that the child becomes so insecure it cannot take critical analysis anymore. And most of you right now, you can't take criticism. You get so upset if your dress ain't right. I'm telling you, sisters, I'm telling you, brothers, it's like somebody persecuting you. If they tell you, sister, your headpiece is worn wrong. Well, why? I got to wear it like that. And you say, I would come to the temple, but y'all make me sick. It ain't y'all make me sick. It is that you can't take no kind of critical analysis. You can't take reform. You don't want nobody to tell you because you're so insecure that if they just approach you with criticism, your heart starts beating like you're getting in a fight. You know how I know that? That's the way I was. Somebody go to criticize me, my heart start pounding. Thought my heart gonna jump out my chest. I paralyzed. You know what I mean? What I do? Well, see, it's because of an improper relationship. You know where I found my peace? I found peace with prostitutes. Not sexually. I'm talking about women who had been in the world and knew the world and saw in me what I didn't see in myself. And them prostitutes took me under their wing when I was in show business, and they didn't try to get in no bed with me. They were schooling me. That's why today, give me all the whores in the world, because I know what to do with a woman now. I'm telling you, man, I had women who were cocktail waitresses who taught me about life because I couldn't talk to my mother about life. I mean, she was way over here. And to talk to mom about the things that you're beginning to feel and as you mature, hey, but the prostitute, she could talk. And I found that even in the low-life, so-called low-life women, when my friends saw me excelling and became envious, I wouldn't go to my mother and talk about it. I would go to these kind of women, and they would tell me, well, Gene said they talked about Jesus. So you can't go through life, honey, without expecting some of that for yourself. A sailor would come to the door and she would go on out with the sailor, but she left something with me. She may be dead and gone now, but she left something with me. And that's why today, brother, I ain't no talker for no Muslim. I am a champion for black people wherever they are and in whatever condition they're in. Let me tell you something. In that world of show business, see, in the world of show business, faggots pay attention to you. See? And they would come, they liked me because I was a beautiful young man. But I wasn't into that. But they were interested in me. They'd offer me drugs, I would turn that down. But I learned from them. Why did God put them in my life? So that one day I would come back and heal a community of them. You understand? Because all of our people are in bad shape. All of our people are sick. Only you got these highfalutin, self-righteous hypocrites in the church that the bread, the wafer hardly melts in their mouth and the wine hardly gets down their throat. They are so holy. But I found more holiness with prostitutes. I found more holiness with those that the Word of God condemns than I find in these so-called self-righteous hypocrites. And as it was then, it's the same way today. I'm talking about relationships. I'm almost finished. That part of it. Don't you know, when I got into show business and found people applauding me, that was food for my soul. That's why Michael Jordan will give his life to basketball, because that's his reason for living. He's black. in a white man's world. Don't nobody love no black children. But that's a black man who can do it better than anybody has ever done it. And because the world knows he's great at that, he finds in the basketball what he couldn't find in mama. He couldn't find in dad. And he couldn't find in the world. So he's closer to the basketball than to mama. If you try to take that ball from him, you have trouble on your hands. Try to take that ball from Peyton, you got trouble on your hands. Try to take singing from Freddie Jackson, you got trouble on your hands. Try to take the piano and a song from Stevie Wonder, you got trouble on your hands. Because the music is what allowed us to feel our worth when we should have gotten that from our mother. Do you follow? So look at your relationships filled with tainted love. Why did you marry the woman you married, brother? Why you go with the girl you go with now? Something you want out of her. I love you, baby. I love you, baby. But don't let her come up short. Why are you going with that man you're going with? And why you marry the man that you marry? You have a need. You want to be wanted. So any story will do. How you doing, baby? I love you. Don't you want to hear those words? You are so beautiful. Don't you want to hear them words? Baby, I don't know what I'd do without you. Don't you want to hear those words? And they drop them words on you. You the sunshine of my life, baby. Go on, honey, talk to me. Look at you. I mean, you sick as hell. Let me tell you something. I went to see Freddie Jackson one day. Freddie started singing, love. I need your love. And the sisters started, they run all down in front of the stage. I'm sitting there watching. Freddie dressed in his white suit and it's just glittering in him. And he going out to him, I need your love. And then he went to, and the sister just hollered and screamed and went off. I said, look at this. I said, but the sickness in you is because you really want to be needed. And you want to be wanted. You want to be loved. You want somebody to appreciate you. So you go out of your way and hurt yourself to get what you think you need, when what you really need is to find your relationship with God. And now I'd like to conclude this Sunday. I could stretch this out to school, to church, to society. We don't relate well to nothing. And as a result, it is difficult to make us brothers. Now, I want to read something from the Quran to you. In Surah 64, verse 2, Allah says, He it is who created you. But one of you is a believer and one is a disbeliever. And Allah is a seer of what you do. Now think about that. God creates you, but one of you believes in God and the other disbelieves. How could that be? God, why did you do that? Why? God says, I created life. And every life form that I create an enemy for that form. I create a rose, and I create a weed, and I create a husbandman to pull up the weed that the rose might live. But if there's no husbandman to take care of the vineyard, then the weed will choke the rose. I created an enemy for all living things. Allah says in the Quran to Muhammad, I have created an enemy, or made an enemy for you in every town, but I control them. He is his own servant. He created enemies for his servant. There never was a prophet that came on the earth that didn't have enemies that sought to kill the prophet. Is that right? Right. Why does God do that? He always pits light against darkness and darkness against light. He pits hatred against love and love against hatred. He pits right against wrong and truth against falsehood. He keeps the communities upside down because that's the way we move toward perfection. Y'all all right? Now, Elijah Muhammad was a good man in our midst. What made Wallace, his son, so contrary to his father? See? I've got 9 children. I believe that my children are with me. But they have not always accepted the life that I've devoted my life to. Why? Why? I want to take a look in concluding at 3 sons of 3 fathers. And I want to take a look at the law that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Adam was made by God, and God breathed into Adam. You would think that Adam would be pure. But in Adam is the same capacity to sin that is in every human being. Therefore, every human being is born into the world to struggle. When babies die, we automatically think that the baby should go to heaven because the baby is innocent. Right? And they picture heaven full of babies. But the baby ain't worthy to go to heaven. Boy, what did I say? I know my baby's in heaven. No, your baby's in the earth. Heaven is not made for those who don't struggle. Babies don't struggle in the way that God allows us to struggle. Let me give you an example. You got a baby? I want you to look at your babies now. If you don't have them here with you, when you go home, study them. That baby is born a natural creature of the earth. It has to grow to be a creature of heaven. Think about what I just said. The baby has the gift of God's own life in it, But that has to be evolved, that has to be nurtured, that has to be developed, and that only develops with struggle against the forces of the earth. So the Quran says, I created you impatient. All babies are impatient. But God demands of the righteous patience. So patience ain't something you get at birth. Patience is something you develop with struggle with yourself. Watch a baby. Don't feed it when it wants the bottle or the breast. Watch it cry. Watch now. That's the first cry. You ain't come then. And then that baby will cry in a way where the whole face will become inflamed with redness, showing you the baby is angry now. It's a creature of the earth. It wants gratification now. You understand? Anger comes up. If the baby could talk, only God knows what it would call you. Is that right? The baby defecates on itself. The baby urinates on itself. Why? It hasn't learned control. So it's got to get control of itself. Throughout the development of its life, it's got to struggle to get control, struggle to pull up, struggle for balance, struggle to walk. This is the baby's struggle. But the moral struggle that makes you into paradise is not a baby's struggle. It is the struggle that when you learn what is right and the nature of right that is in you says this is wrong, then you're put in a struggle with right against wrong and wrong against right. And when you're able to make the right choice and overcome the low passions, now you're making yourself worthy of what God calls paradise. Do you understand? So when God takes a child, the child is innocent. The child has not come into the world and gotten into the struggle that qualifies one to see the kingdom of God. So the child comes in and passes out, giving each of us lessons. A young man that's here today with me had a son that died recently at 10 months old. I had a talk with his wife a few days ago. What a painful thing to lose a child. But the child came for a short while. And the child came to teach the mother and the father something about life. The child had been in pain from its inception, to tell the mother and the father, stop crying over pain. The child had been in a struggle for its life, and it struggled to keep life, but finally had to give it up to tell the parents, stop giving up. Struggle on. That's what the little boy was teaching the parent. And then God took the child, but he left the lesson. But who can read? Who will study? See? I'm almost finished. When, listen now, this is critical. When nature calls on a human being to come into the world to correct wrong, to strive for justice, hear me, that person is so single-minded when it knows itself and its mission, it cannot see relationship other than a relationship to its mission and not say, you're my son. I want you to hear me well. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Noah came into the world. He came into the world to preach righteousness. And he preached it for 150 years. And in his preaching, he produced a son that was the very opposite of his preaching. Why? Because in his being centered on his mission, there was some neglect in the relationship with the son. The son not knowing, not being able to look at the father and understand that the man is born to do what he's doing, and he's going down a road. He's making a sacrifice of his life and a sacrifice of his son and a sacrifice of his family, because there's something bigger than you in this world. I can't be home nursing no baby. I got a world in front of me. A man born to do something, when he finds out what he's born to do, he's gone. And the only way you can relate to him is you got to relate to what he's born to do. And that's what disconnects the relationship. See, if the wife don't understand the depth of the mission so she can relate that to the child, then the child loses a connection to the father. I'm just going after this thing, just like how God has helped me to see it. And you're producing an equal and opposite reaction, because the child does not think that the father cares for the child. It's like the child cares for this God and this mission more than you care for me. See, children are selfish. Children are self-centered. They don't know anything about the reality of God. When God calls on you, God demands more of you than music and science and baseball and basketball. God wants complete obedience to Him, complete worship of Him. So you say in the Bible, you know, the first law is to love God with all your heart. What do you mean all your heart? Let me check that out. All your soul and all your mind. You don't want no half, nothing. I want it all. And in that all, you find relationships. Do you hear me? Yes, sir. I want to come to something very deep now. When the child who needs a relationship with the parent does not feel that that relationship is honored, the child then rejects not just the parent, but the child rejects the mission. The child rejects the word. Since this God took my father away from me, and I ain't got no relationship with my father, and since he ain't seemed like he got time for me and really don't care, then I'll show him. I'll go the exact opposite way for my attention. So while you teaching one thing, the child is doing something else. And the child don't realize that the child is not hurting the father. It's hurting the father in one sense, but the child is destroying himself to get the attention of the father. Isn't that something? Noah had a son. Listen to me. And that son didn't love his father. The father loved the son. The father pleaded with God, save my son. This is from the Quran. Did you know God told Noah, if you ask me to save your son one more time, I'll kill you and your son. Then God says to Noah, I know best who is your son. He is not your son. He is the very embodiment of evil. This is the Quran. Now, how could this righteous man produce a son that is the embodiment of evil? What is evil? What is the root of evil? The root of evil is rebellion. And when you don't give children what they think they need, they find ways to rebel. And in that rebellion, you see, that gives the parent pain, but it's destroying the child. So the more the child rebels, the more pain he gets the more need for pleasure. I can't find it in a relationship with my Father. I refuse to call on my Father's God. I will not pray because I don't believe. Then I'll find my solace in a drug. So I'll take the drug and create a euphoric condition and go into a dark room like a womb. And I will stay in the dark. And then I will begin to pervert reality and put all the blame on my parents and take no responsibility for my own actions. And then when my parents confront me with my inadequacy, I will lie to them and lie to myself to cover myself, so I am one self-deluded now. And then I start becoming a devil because I can no longer see truth or connect to truth because I refuse to connect to my righteous Father who's trying to connect me to the righteous God. See? So that son, boy, was killed by God. That's the Quran. The Bible comes at it a different way. The Bible puts it like this. The father got the sons through the flood. And then the father was seen drunk and naked. This is critical. Because when somebody helps you to get over, and you see the person that helped you in a critical condition that you think is contrary, your duty is to help the one that helped you. So the sons that loved the father, they wouldn't look on his nakedness. They walked with a cover and tried to cover the father's nakedness. But that son that really didn't love the father, he started mocking the father in his nakedness. Remember now, this is a father that got the boy through the flood. But the son is ungrateful. And ingratitude and proudness leads to perversity and rebellion and hatred. So that son was destroyed. Second son, the son of David. David had a son called Absalom. And if you break that name down into syllables, Ab means from or away from, and Salam or Shalom or Salam means peace. So the more you are away from submission to a righteous principle, the less peace you have. You understand? Absalom. Absalom used to stand in the gate of his father's palace. And when the people would come to the father, Absalom would meet them first and he would kiss their hand. He was trying to win them. See, the sick need to be wanted, to be needed, to be loved, but it wasn't a proper relationship. So he struck up a deceitful relationship with his father's followers. Then he openly became an enemy of his father. And then went up on the roof and laid with David's wives in the presence of all of Israel. Now, sometimes you can't crush your father. He's too strong. So if he has wives and he's up in age, you try to get to his wife or wives. That is not your mother. And you try to lay with them. So if I can conquer what my father loves, then I have conquered my father. This thing starts growing. Children think they're better than their parents, whom God has chosen. And they may be, but they'll never develop that better until they submit to their father, who is the righteous guide from God. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can't get in God's world behaving proudly against the teacher of righteousness. So what happens? They go to war. The son goes to war against his father. I don't mean to bore you all. But if you're tired, you can go ahead home. You go ahead home. And I'm going to tell you something. You stay all day watching a football game. You don't get tired watching them MTV and all that foolishness. But when a man is trying to help you to understand what makes you tick, you get a little upset, uptight. He's talking too long. Well, I ain't never talking too long. When it get too long for you, get up and excuse yourself. Because I don't get through till I'm through. But I'm almost there. See, but that patience, you know what I mean? Patience. Now, when that boy laid with his father's wife, see, that was the sign that he hated his father. And he hated his father. If you look deep into it, it was a problem of relationships. Again, insecure. Then he went to war against his father. But the father loved him so. The father told the soldiers, please, when you overcome my son, don't kill him. But the captain of David, when they finally caught Absalom, or he was caught in a tree by his hair, Joab couldn't help himself. He hated the son for his rebellion and war against the father. His hatred, see, that's an emotion, overriding now the instruction of the king. See? Telling you that your hatred, your anger can put you in a position to disobey God. And even though Joab claimed to be the servant of the king and was with the father, he was so angry with the king's son, he couldn't hear the command of David, and he slew David's son. And David, after all of Israel was rejoicing that Absalom and his rebellious foes were destroyed, David was in the tent crying. And he was saying over and over again 2 words, my son, my son. And I can tell you today that in 1964, when Wallace D. Muhammad first broke against his father and said very disparaging things in the press against his father, I was living in Boston. And as God is my witness, one night, it is like Allah lifted me right up out of my own body. My body laying in the bed in Boston. But I'm traveling and I can see the ground and the trees. And I'm flying over the ground. I'm going to Chicago. And as I come up on his home, Elijah Muhammad's home on 47 Woodlawn, I come around the house. This is in the spirit now. And I look in and I see Elijah Muhammad sitting on the bed in his son's bedroom with his back to the window. And he was crying the most deep and bitter cry that I've ever heard a man cry. I mean, the cry was coming up from his loins. And I heard him saying over and over again, my son, my son, my son. And I approached the window in the spirit and I whispered to him, I said, I will be your son. And he never turned around and acknowledged my presence. And so I left feeling rejected. And I went back and got right back inside myself. And the next day, of course, I go and study. And I find in the history of David, David crying in the tent, saying, my son. Now, I'm not lying to you. I wouldn't lie to you if they put a gun to my head. And I would never tell the Honorable Elijah Muhammad what God showed me, because I didn't want him to think that I was trying to take his son's place. But I am his son. And I am more his son than any flesh and blood child that he produced. I'm not his son from the womb. I am his son from the Word. But to him, and I say this, Wallace D. Muhammad was a wonderful child. Oh, if you knew Wallace D. Muhammad when we were growing up, you would never find a more magnificent young man than that man. He was more brilliant than all of the ministers. His insight, his depth was magnificent. I'm telling you what I know. That man was a great student of philosophy. And I mean, he had deep insight into human thinking. Deep insight. And we knew that his father was grooming him. But inside, Wallace didn't agree with his dad. You know what made him disagree? Pain. He saw the Muslim community following his father in pain. Sisters, put on your headpiece. Cover yourself. Your dress is too short. Lower it. Pain. Brothers, hold it. 10-inch hut. Soldier. Sell so many papers. The brothers didn't want to get out on the corner selling them papers. Pain. And the imam felt the pain. He was a very soulful, sensitive young man. But he felt pain, as I mentioned in my October the 9th message, and the pain that he felt, he didn't understand the root of that pain. And when you misinterpret why a pain and what is causing the pain and why pain is necessary, then you may try to remove pain and end up producing something that is ugly. And I'm telling you what the scripture says. Every father wants good for his child. How could God say he loved the whole world and then allow Jesus to suffer so much pain? Think about that. Isn't he a good father? Would you put your father, would you as a father allow your son to go to the cross and suffer and bleed and die? Would you do that? Not you. Because in your natural spirit, you want pain relieved immediately. But God knows best. He knew that it would take that kind of pain to produce a son that was worthy to be a deliverer for a people. I close. I say this to you. Don't be that kind of son to your father if he's trying to be right. Don't be that kind of daughter to your mother if she's trying to be right. Simply because mom didn't give you all that you needed, don't hate your mother or hate your father. They are victims of a world that deprived both of us and both of them of knowledge. You young people, no matter what condition your mom is in, that's mom. God orders you to love her. God orders you to honor her. God orders you and me to respect her. And if you're patient with life, you'll grow to see that Mama loved you. And she did the best she knew, but she needed so much herself that she neglected you and in some sense rejected you because she was an unfulfilled woman and she was trying to find somebody to love her. Finally, she put her love into her children, and she did it in a twisted way. She didn't mean any harm. She's imperfect, but she did her best. Your father may never have been there, young man. He may never have been there, sister, for you. But thank God for your father, for without that seed, you could not be where you are and who you are. So if your parents have made mistakes, you've grown now. You're growing now. You got to take responsibility for your life. Mama's days of mothering you is nearly over. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to wallow in self-pity, or are you going to stand up and make a determination, then connect with God? For he makes right or wrong things right. He takes the rough places and he makes them plain. He takes the crooked thing and he makes them straight. So the burden is now on you to reconnect. Reconnect to God first, and then go find your mom and embrace her and say, thank you, Mom. Thank you for all that you did. And what you didn't do, God is sufficient now. Thank you, Dad. And he'll feel so ashamed. Well, I mean, son, you know, I would have liked to done. He is going to lay them excuses on you. But look past that and tell him. Say, Dad, I love you. Well, I know I didn't do nothing, son, but I tried. You know what I mean? Your mother's something else. But look past all of that and say, Dad, look, I know you would have done better if you could have. If he knew better, he would have done better. Because now as he's getting older, he needs you. And he recognized he didn't put nothing in, so he's hard now to expect anything out. So most of our fathers, they're going to their death now alone, man. Nobody to mourn them, nobody to cry over, man, because they ain't done a doggone thing in life worthwhile. That's sad, isn't it? You got a chance, man. You young, you got a chance. You connect with God, whose proper name is Allah. And you begin to determine now, with the help of God, you're going to make something out of your life. And if you tighten your relationship with God, I abound you, you will tighten up all other relationships. Then it won't be the sick thing, a woman looking for fulfillment in a man looking for the woman to love him so she becomes his other mother. I'm telling you, God is able, man. You go to him and you find solace and comfort in him. Then when you have a relationship with a woman, it is a better relationship. It's a cleaner relationship. It's a relationship on a right term. That's why we're hooked on drugs. We can't relate well to the society. It gives us pain. We didn't relate well to Mom, to Dad. We're not really relating well to ourselves. So give me a hit, man. How much is a rock, man? And let me burn this rock and inhale death and twist my brain into illusions, because maybe there I'll find some pleasure to make up for the pain of my life. There's pleasure in finding God in a relationship. Man, I'm leaving you now, but I'm walking in the valley of the shadow of death. The government says I'm enemy number one. They got a 100-man task force that does nothing but follow me, tap my phone, listen to my conversations, plot against me in this city and that city. They send people in to watch me and report to people what they think my weakness is, what they think I like, what I don't like. I'm just telling you, this is all around. But yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't fear any evil. Allah is with me. Oh, I worry at night because I want to see us raise the money to make a national center to show the world that we are on the rise. I worry, but in the morning I'm not worried anymore because I know Allah is able. My precious mother lies dying as I speak with you, but she's run her course. She's done her job. She's suffered all through her life, but it's all worthwhile because she will never die. She made a son and brought him into the world that will make a difference. And so as long as I live, my mother will live. So there's no death going to touch my mother. Oh, praise be to Allah. I think I'm a very blessed man because I have my sons and I have my daughters and I have my family surrounding me now. My sons and my daughters called me to a meeting a few days ago, and the eldest daughter said to her father, "Dad, ever since I've been in the world, I've been watching you struggle for black people, and I've never seen you waver." She said, even though you have sacrificed us in a sense for the mission, today we understand. And through that pain, we've come to the realization that now we must help you in your mission. I broke down and I cried because I'm going toward death. I'm walking slow. I ain't running. You understand? I mean, I don't want you to think that, I ain't going to be here for a while. I mean, Allah didn't show me anything, but whatever His pleasure is mine. But I'm saying that to say this, that as a man gets older, the greatest comfort to him is to see his children adopt the God that he has been teaching about all their life. Not adopt him, but believe him. And my children have seen me up, and they've seen me all the way down. And when my children said, "I can't follow no God that will allow you who work so hard for the nation and for black people now to be rejected, and some of the same people you work for trying to take your life." And even though I didn't know how, I told my children, I said, "Baby," I said, "you will see. This is only a trial. God is going to lift your father up and make me victorious over all my enemies. You will see." That was 11 years ago. And now here it is. I ain't reached not even halfway where God wants me to go. My father, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said I would reach the pinnacle of success in this world's life. I ain't even started on the road yet. So if you think the boy is bad now, watch him a little bit longer. As the messenger said, look at him when you see him. And listen to him when you hear him. So I thank Allah as I close for my mom and for my dad who is passed on, never saw his son in the development of a son. I thank Allah for my brother. I thank Allah for my children. Beautiful children. Children with such great gifts. This son that sits in front of me, Louis Jr., my first boy after 3 girls. Well, he's such a powerful young man. He speaks sometimes in ways his father don't understand him. I'm just telling you, he's far ahead. And I got to tell him, slow down, you know what I mean? Because Daddy got to catch up with what you're talking about. The boy is a visionary. And at 10 years old, when he was 10 years old, he told me about how God created himself. He told me about the atom of life out in space, and he said it was like, he didn't use the word pulsating, but like in a breathing motion. He was showing me how it was expanding and contracting in space. I didn't know what he was talking about. And I went to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and told the Honorable Elijah Muhammad what my son had said, and he said, your son is right. I said, good God, what I got here? He was 10. He never found peace in school. He never found peace in school. And you got many children that are brilliant and they don't find no peace in the school. It ain't that they're dumb, but the teachers have not caught up with the brilliance that they're trying to deal with. You got brilliant children, mothers. They ain't dummies. Don't let the teacher tell you you got to dope your children up because they're hyperactive. The teacher got to slow your baby down so they can catch up with your baby. You better get all that dope out of your system. So I thank God for my son Wallace, a strong warrior. He's born that way. This son is a visionary. And when he gets his life in the order that he's on the road to getting it, man, what a contribution he's going to make. Because, see, all his life he was taught from me that he should live for you. That's right. From their cradle, I never took no credit. When I put shoes on their feet, I said it came from you. When I put a suit on their back, I said it came from you. So why, son, did I say that? Because I want you to know that life ain't worth a damn unless you serve the rise of your people. And when the messenger would put money in my pocket, I would give some to them and say it came from him. Never did I tell him it came from me. It either was from you or from the messenger or from God. Never did I say me. And I read all my children, be with your father when I'm right. But if you see me wrong, stand against wrong. Ask them, they'll tell you. I thank Allah for my children. I got another son, Joshua. Uncanny in the brilliance of his mind. He too couldn't relate to school. He needed something from his father that his father didn't give him, because his father found something to feed his need, and his father went after that lock, stock, and barrel in the name of God. You see, we use God for all kind of things, but I'm telling you that the love for God was not pure. It was part God and part need. Do you understand? Can you admit something like that? Yes, sir. You better. Confession is good for your soul. It's good for you to face who you are and what you are and what you've been and what God wants you to be. Don't hide no more. He's in love with you. He wants to forgive you. He wants to make you a great people. Don't try to hide from him. He already knows what you're doing. So go to him and say, look, I've been messed up. He said, I know it. I've been funky. He said, I know that too. I've been wrong. He said, I know. I've been waiting on you. And boy, when you can face yourself and get it up off of you, you're free as a bird, brother. You're free as a bird, sister. All praise is due to Allah. Yeah, man. My son Josh, that boy is too tough. I watched him from a little boy. He always wanted to be the best at whatever he was. So his daddy didn't recognize him like I should have. So he said, well, you know what I mean, later. You know what I mean? You don't want to recognize me? Fine. I'll go get drunk and be somebody. I didn't know that the boy was drinking at 11 and 12. I was too busy. And many of us, we get so busy seeking what will gratify us, we're not concerned about what will gratify those who are given in a trust to us by God. And so as the children get older, when they don't respond to us as we think they should, and where did I go wrong? We had a wrong relationship from the giddy up. Excuse the slang, I mean from the beginning. I watch my son Joshua train snakes. I watch him train rabbits. I watch that boy take wildlife and make wildlife obey him. I watch him come in wild, vicious dogs and quiet the vicious dog down. And I asked him the other day, I said, how do you do that, son? He said, it's the presence. See, and he's not what you call educated in the school, but he's got something that school can't give you. He said, Daddy, it's my presence. It's what's in me that the dog senses. And he responds to what he senses from me. So I told him when he was a young boy, I said, Lord, if you can train wild animals, come help me train a wild people. He said, well, Daddy, when I stop being wild, then I can help you with the wild. So now Josh is on the way. He's getting his wildness out, and he's getting ready to take his job. And I'm going to tell you all, oh, hell yeah, it takes time. I'm an old man, it took time. So if my son can grab it at his age, he's far ahead of me. But look, the boy is bad. He be drunk, they tell me, in the bars, preaching. Have the glasses submitting. I said, boy, when you ready, I'm just going to sit down. Because it makes a father feel good when he sees his son stand up and take the mission and say, Daddy, I'll help you. Huh? He's about getting ready. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I feel stronger now, you know. I feel better now. But what about them daughters you got? I got one more son. I'm talking about them sons first. Because they've been last, I got to make them first now. I got a son named Abner. See, the messenger named him because he was destined to be a general. So he's in military school now. But soon he'll be in the university. I want him to learn everything there is about war. Because maybe the world don't want us free. So I got a visionary. I got a soldier, statesman, and Wallace. Did you hear him at the rap night? Oh, he was so mean that night, tears come out my eyes. I said, look at this boy. The other one, you ain't heard them yet now. They're going to bust loose. I said, that's good. And I want to say this about my family. See, none of you know their sacrifice. I don't want you to judge my family. Don't make a mistake like that. Because you weren't with me when I had to teach them how to roll out of the bed. When people throwing fire bombs in our window and shooting in our window trying to kill me and didn't care whether they killed my children or not. You weren't there when me and my wife was picking food up out of the street to make a little plate for them to eat. You were not there when we had to go to the Salvation Army and buy their clothes. See, you were not there. So don't talk to me about what my children are or are not. When you are tried like they've been tried, then you come and talk to me. You Johnny-come-latelys to the faith. I got a daughter, my oldest daughter. She the warrior. She used to beat men. She didn't have no fear or nothing. She really believed in the God and would thump. So everybody knew her around the block. Don't mess with Big B. Because she'll thump you, brother. Call on God and whoop your pants off. And when the police attacked the mosque in New York, she was 16 years old. And she took the children and the older women, put them in behind her and stood at the door so that when they came, she was going to do battle. So when the messenger heard that, he said, one day she wrote me a letter. He said, she's going to be your captain. I didn't know what he meant. So I took her to Sister Amina Rasul at 16 and said, the messenger said she was going to be a captain for me one day, so would you train her? I didn't know that one day I'd be the head of the nation. Well, she's getting ready. I'm not saying this to put anybody down that's serving, but I'm going to tell you, a woman that's been through what my daughter been through, she know what these women need. And let me tell you, when these women come here, they ain't coming here to be played with. They've been in the world, they done caught hell. They know what it's like to love and lose in love, to have a man and a man walk out. So have my daughter. I'm telling you, she's getting ready. I got another daughter, Donna. She can preach, man. Turn your toes up. She's her father in female form. Well, she said, Daddy, I'm ready. I'm ready. I said, come on, baby. Daddy ready too. Now, don't feel threatened. Don't feel threatened now. Because this work is so big. It needs all of us, don't it? Doesn't it? All praise to keep y'all up. Yeah. I got another daughter, Iris. I mean, man, if you get to talking with that girl, she's so hip. But she'll laugh and joke with you and then read you in between your toenails. See, these girls, they've been around, man, and they know how to throw you off with a joke. And then you expose yourself. They say, Daddy, so-and-so ain't so-and-so. She says she coming home. She getting ready. My daughter, Colladay's in Tuskegee. She getting ready to teach in the university. So all my family, with the help of God, wants to make a contribution to the nation's rise. I think it's wonderful. Right relationships. And they will. I got 20 grandchildren. coming up now. Just had the 20th one the other. Not that I had it. Yeah. 20 grandchildren. That's a lot of grandchildren. And then some of them ain't even got started yet. I'm gonna go ahead, boy. Y'all multiply. You hear? But make sure they have a good relationship now. We got to take the lessons of our life, the failures, the mistakes of the father, the mistakes of the mother, and then we must get it right. And so let me leave you now. I done talked enough. But I want you all to know, and I want my son and my family to know, oh, excuse me, I forgot Maria. I got a daughter, and she came in here and beautified this place. We got the messengers home back, and she went in there and beautified that place, and in Phoenix. And when you finally see what's going to happen in your national center, oh, man, you're going to want to live in a bathroom. I mean, it's going to be just that pretty. You get in the bathroom, you just don't want to come out. So I have to pipe the word into the bathroom for you. She's a marvelous artist, but what she says to me, she said, Daddy, women, all women are not the same. All women don't want to dress the same. All women, even though they may love the uniform, all women they can't wear the same fez. All women don't look good in the same this. Women want to look good, and women want to be pleased with themselves. They don't want to feel like you bringing them into Islam to make them unattractive or ugly. You want to make them righteous, but you want them to be able to be modest, righteous, and yet beautiful at the same time. So I said, is that the way you think, honey? And then I got an amen from my other daughter, and I look like I'm getting an amen from you too. Now, sisters, that means then that some of you know how to design. Get your pens busy. Get busy and design beautiful clothes for black women that are righteous, that are not revealing of their form, but they are so exquisite and attractive. Be the model for the whole world of women. Shape it up. Come on and help me raise up a nation that will obey. So, I guess that's it. You know how I started. I started talking about how I needed help. I didn't forget. And don't want you to forget. I want you all to make a commitment to help your brother build a national center, and from that, let's go and build a nation for our people. So I thank you for a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for listening. Thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you for giving me your attention. I know you could have been watching the Bears, but thank God you had enough sense to know you can get the score on TV. But this you won't get unless you buy the tape and take the tape home with you. Okay? And sisters say they're going to transcribe this and get it together. So the tape was being made now. You can get the tape after this is over.
All right, family. I know we thoroughly enjoyed that. I know I did. Heavy. That part two is almost like, how can you follow part one? Part two always is, it seems to be what we need to be able to get to where we need to get to. I know you have takeaways. Please raise your hand and prepare yourself for takeaways if you have takeaways. If you're not in a position to be able to share, please Utilize the power call testimonial section. I know it's something that you've learned, you've been reminded of, you've been able to take to heart that you can apply to your life today. Be sure to utilize the power call testimonial section. If you would like to upgrade and you're on the Vimeo side, please go to www.powercall.net. If you're on an Android device, you can do it within the app, but if you're using an Apple or iPhone device, please go to your web browser, type in www.powercall.net, and upgrade and continue to support your power call as well. If you would like to visit your local Muhammad Masa study group, please go to www.noystudygroup.com. Fill out the form. The sister will reach out to you as soon as possible to provide you with the location and time information to come to your self-improvement study group tomorrow on Friday, or to the public meeting on Sunday at the local times listed in your area. Like I said, so much that we can take from this, so I'm not going to go first. We're going to let Sister Yolanda go. Let me make sure I got the volume here, because I know this is going to be something that I'm going to continue to study. I've watched this lecture multiple times, and every time it's just as good as the last time, so I'm going to be studying it further. But let me switch the sound over here. All right, and make sure you can unmute yourself as well. All right, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Does anybody else want to go first before me?
Wa alaikum salam. Go ahead, sis.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, I heard this lecture before, but it's just, as we say, we can hear a lecture over and over again, always pick something new. But it really stood out to me this time in a couple points where he mentions that the child will reject the mission because it feels neglected because of the lack of attention from the parenting. And as I have already raised my children, and I'm continuing to sow into these adult children, which is a whole different level of parenting, it helped me to really understand some of the behaviors that they displayed. And it weren't that my children were bad, challenging, but at one point, my sister told me for my oldest daughter, she may do things because she is desiring your attention. So even if it's something you have to chastise her on, to her, it may be that she's getting that attention from you. So don't be so hard on her. And both of my children, I think it was this year or the end of last year, they told me that I didn't show them love. Almost to the point where they were trying to say that I didn't love them. But as I listened to this lecture and the minister talked about the children, and I asked them the question because I was not too busy for my children, because the oldest one was in Girl Scouts until she graduated high school. The youngest one played softball from the age of 8 all the way through school up until the 12th grade, and she left the offers on the table, which crushed me. But nevertheless, I had a conversation with them, and I'm like, okay, because I wasn't affectionate, that was one of their key points. I wasn't as affectionate as my mother, may Allah be pleased with her, was with them. They felt I could understand the feeling of the rejection and lack of love listening to this lecture. So we all had a conversation, and I'm like, okay, my acts of love was providing shelter for you, making sure you had food, making sure you had the proper clothing. You always didn't have what you wanted, but your necessities and your needs were met. So therefore, because I was immature in my thinking, and I had children with the males, which are your fathers, I didn't do my investigatory process properly. It's not going to stop me from being responsible for taking care of my children. So I apologize that you feel that I didn't love you. I showed you a lack of love. But I didn't grow up with a lot of affection. So therefore, I saw how that passed on to me, and now I'm doing better with that. and even conversating. And my youngest daughter went to a private school, and now she's 21, and she's like, "Well, I don't understand this God thing. I don't." She explained it to me as the minister said one of his sons did, and I look at her now, and I'm being very patient because just yesterday she told me, "Oh, you're so calm now," and I said, "Can you repeat what you just said? What did you just say?" And she didn't say anything because she thought I was going to go off about the situation she explained to me, and I was just like, no. But nevertheless, she always asked me about the teachings, and even when she was in private school, she FaceTimed me in her theology class, wanted me to speak to her instructor in regards to who God is. I said, OMG. Ma'am, just be careful because I don't want you to become a target in the school. I said, but if anything, just ask questions. And the teacher and I had a small dialogue, but they were in class, so it didn't last too long. But there was an understanding that took place. Praise be to Allah for that. So wow, I want to share this lecture with my children and sit down, and we could go through some key points that they have, and me just sit down and listen to them and not to even say anything, but just to listen to them. Thank you for allowing me to share. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. All praise due to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Sister Yasina?
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you, Sister Yolanda, for that. Mine was sort of the opposite. Well, I didn't get that love from my mother so much the way I thought my soul needed it, but Allah put my surrogates, my grandparents and aunts and cousins in my path so that I could get that love that 14-year-old child couldn't give to me. So my takeaways from that, I love when the minister talked, when he said that heaven is not made for those who don't struggle. And he spoke about how the baby doesn't struggle in the way that Allah allows us to struggle. And because it has not developed, so if a baby who, by Allah's permission passes, even if there was a heaven, the baby is not qualified, would not be qualified to enter heaven because it has not gone through the portals of struggle and overcome those struggles, which is to be one with Allah. And the minister said that he talked about Noah's son, he talked about David's sons, and how they longed for that attention and longed for the kind of love that they desired from their parents. And because and of course, those of us who know the history of Imam Wahid Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with him, that they couldn't overcome their pain. And pain disallows a person to see God's hand in a situation because, like the baby, the minister says, we want what we want as babies. The baby wants what it wants when it wants it. And the idea of having to be patient, it has not developed the characteristic of patience. And patience requires long suffering. And when we're trying to become one with God as adults, even as adults, we don't want to go through the vicissitudes and overcome the vicissitudes of pain because nobody wants pain, as the minister has said in one of his lectures. But and we want the relief from pain. But we have to say, you know what, like the minister, Allah knows best. Because as we go through the pains of whatever we're going through in our personal lives and as a nation, darkness does not last always. So we have to go through the dark hours in order to get to the light. And if we can stay the course, then we know that there is a reward on the other side, but also another road of having to be patient because it does not stop. You just get maybe a breather, and then it's time for you to gear up uh, for the next trial or the next circumstance, to not to show Allah, but to show the God in yourself and myself how strong our faith foundation is, and will we survive. And the last part, and I will fall back, is when the minister talked about the love as children that we should have for our parents. As I have expressed on several occasions, I came from a 14-year-old mother and a 16-year-old father who had no idea what they were doing and had no desire to have a child, even though they had my sister nearly 2 years later. And so I didn't have the relationship growing up that I would have loved to have had with them. But when I didn't speak with my mother for 3 years, and my father had, doing his thing and creating more siblings for me, I had to go to my other family members to learn of my parents and try to understand them. And so Allah blessed me to grow to understand them better on a much more spiritual level, which in turn, my mother and I had 10 beautiful, maybe 11 beautiful years together. And my father and I had 7 beautiful years together before Allah called them back to himself. And as their oldest daughter, I was blessed to eulogize them, which was an honor for me as their daughter. But I saw the beauty in them, regardless of their circumstances. They were the souls that Allah chose to bring me into existence. So I would say to any of those online who are in their feelings about their parents, Allah took the best of your parents and He created you. So thank Allah for molding and shaping the genetic makeup of both of your parents in such a beautiful way that you are now here as a testament of the most fabulous parts of your parents. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Yes, ma'am. Definitely appreciate your comments and your testimony for sure, because many of us deal with that on a regular basis, contending with why me or why we were given these circumstances that we're dealt with, or the cards that we're dealt. So, and being able to really understand, which is why this power call is so powerful, why sharing your thoughts and feedback is so powerful as well, because it gives us such a deeper understanding, because some of us may not have experienced certain things. And if you can see your fellow sister or brother, what they went through and how they've been able to continue to persevere through all of that, it just shows you a better understanding of our people, just understanding where everyone is coming from. And know that we all have our own trials. We all have our own problems. But with Allah's help, with Allah's grace, we can overcome those problems. And these teachings are the process in which we do that. We have the model, as Brother Student Minister Nuri showed us on Friday, this past Friday, on the Diet of God lecture, how we were given the model, the process, and the example. So we just need, the proof of concept. So we just need to be able to stay in this classroom, don't abort the process, continue to fellowship with one another so that we can learn from one another, because we all are on this path. And that if we believe that what we're going through is isolated or individual to us, we're definitely doing ourselves a disservice, because doing these things where we can come to each other, come into study group, come into our meetings, come into the mosque, come into all of these different avenues that have been put in place for us to be exposed to these teachings, you get a better understanding of yourself, better understanding of our family around us, and more of a better understanding of the love that God has for us, as well, in putting these things in place and inspiring those who have put things in place for us to continue on this path of improvement as well. So I appreciate you sharing. All praises due to Allah. Go ahead, Sister Randy.
Assalamu alaikum, family. So I think that's something I stood out was when he said that when he was in the show business industry, well, when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said he was in the show business industry and he was with the prostitutes, and he was just talking about us being self-righteous, that we can learn from one another no matter our circumstances. And sometimes I get out and I speak to those who have gone through things. And I remember going to school and I had um this beautiful woman. She would come and she would be there every morning. She was on drugs, etc. But I didn't stop her from coming early in the morning, because my mother was the bus driver, to come and walk with me to the bus stop every morning at 5 a.m. And I have yet to see that sister, but I learned so much from her. I learned that, like, it wasn't just her life that she just chose drugs. I learned that she was in the military, and when she came back, she wasn't able to cope with life, etc., etc. But it was me, when I was going through with my mother, that I was able to understand, like, certain things, like I didn't have the patience for, or just et cetera, et cetera. So I was talking to my daughter the other day, and when I'm talking to her, I always get, like, from anybody that, my daughter, they will always say, don't kill her spirit, because as a mom, I'm such a soldier, it's X, Y, and Z, and there's just no way other than that. And I'm learning. And I said to my daughter one day, when I felt like she didn't defend herself in the manner that I wanted her to defend herself, I said to her, Jemiah, like, when I say I want you to stand up for yourself, I don't pay for karate X, Y, and Z. My daughter says to me, yeah, mom, certain things bother you, but I have bigger things to worry about. Like, that was small. I continued to do what I was doing, right? And I was like, all praise is due to Allah. But my son the other day, he gave me context on a few things, right? He asked me about God and Satan, and why it can't, and why the devil is trying to beat God. And I didn't come up with an answer fast enough for him. He said, "You always on a power call." He said, "You don't got the answer for me?" Like, and it was like he was G checking me, like, so that means you ain't studying enough. And I just wanted to say all praise is due to Allah for our children, because these are our answer to our prayers. And sometimes we really don't understand um, what our children are seeing us go through. So I just wanted to just share a little bit of context on that, but just learning from everybody, and just to help the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in his work to definitely resurrect the dead. So we definitely need to make sure that we are inviting somebody, because these are life-giving teachings and someone needs to hear these words. So assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, sister. All praise due to Allah for your children as well. Um, and you sharing that, because we need to hear that as well, because our children teach us so much. I'm seeing that just in my particular journey as well. I'm learning so much. Like I've shared before, I thought I had patience, as the minister brought out in the lecture, that patience is developing. Like I said, I thought I had it. I thought I was patient with people, but once you have a little one around you, you realize that you don't have as much patience as you think, and more work you need to do with your patience. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective as well. Go ahead, Brother Daniel. 6 seconds.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, Brother West?
Yes, sir.
Oh, praise be to Allah. My microphone is working. I'm very grateful to Allah for the three previous testimonies of our great sisters. It's very powerful and very insightful. A lot of context in those experiences that they shared. I've listened to this message a lot, and I found it to be so self-healing and important, the way in which the minister laid out relationships and how all of our problems is rooted to how we relate to one another. I found the minister's exegesis on the servants of Allah. especially the exalted Christ in himself, and how there existed problems in relationship with their own children, even their wives. This shows us that this cannot be escaped. This is the reality of God, and this is what draws us closer to the God wherein we would have these problems and seek refuge in Him, striving to make Him our primary source, which is in Study Guide 4, and then all other relationships take their rightful place. So, hearing how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had to deal with a son at the time that was errant, and how that pained him in his soul, how he had to deal with his first wife, his helpmate, who helped him from the beginning, who couldn't countenance the domestic life. These type of things, and how the exalted Christ kept his faith in the God and made it through that, irrespective of the tremendous pain that it was causing him, his family, and the whole nation. And the same thing with our beloved minister and the things he had to deal with where he mentioned his own son battling with drugs. All of these things, for me, helps me to understand the deep love that Master Father Muhammad has for us, wherein he would raise up two servants who would suffer the same things that we would suffer, where they would truly be examples of how you overcome and become the master of your circumstances, conditions, and the enemy to grow into God. So it really solidifies the love of God, wherein He would raise men who would walk the life that we walk. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that, look, I'm to live a life similar to you are to live. Then I'm to be raised and then live life on a higher manifestation. This is our walk. And it's beautiful the way that Allah uses the minister and the way he speaks the wisdom so perfectly, where any of us who have faith and believe can set ourselves right in the blood of the Lamb or the life of the Lamb and begin to crawl and walk after these supreme examples and rise above our personal circumstances. So this message is very, very moving. I can hear how it touched our three great sisters who spoke to their life exquisitely. And it's just, it's something I'm going to revisit again. I'm glad to hear it on this morning's power call. And I don't want to say about this call, this is inviting to be engaged in the words of the God coming through the two messiahs, and to study this in the morning and get your day started after prayer with such wisdom. It just sets your day right, and it helps one to continue to speak that high level of conversation that the minister said we should speak when he spoke to the youth at Savior's Day. He said Allah told him, elevate your level of conversation and stay there, and you'll elevate your life. So I thank you, Brother Wesley, Brother Ben, and the rest of the believers on the line. And that's all I have for this moment.
All praises due to Allah. I appreciate you, Brother Daniel 6X, for your comments. That's definitely what the goal is for, is to be able to have the day start off in such a way in which to project you forward, so that regardless of what we come into, because we're going to be hit with missiles all day long, especially in this world. We're going to be bombarded with distractions, temptations. We're going to have problems arise. But how we deal with them is based off of our foundation. And the stronger we make our foundation in these teachings, these life-giving teachings, the easier it is to be able to navigate through this world in a proper way as well. So I appreciate everybody sharing. If there's anyone else that would like to share, please raise your hand. Again, don't feel pressured. Like I said, I don't have a meeting after this, so if others have comments, don't be afraid to raise your hand. But if you would rather type your comments, please be sure to put it in the Power Call testimonials. I see your hand up, Sister Shalon. Go ahead.
Greetings everyone. I wanted to thank Yasinda for what you said regarding mothers. I believe I've shared before that I've struggled here recently to bring myself to forgive her. So, Yasinda, you just helped me push that forward a little more. And something you also said, Yolanda. I'm hurt by her because I feel that she should have been there instead of choosing the life of drugs. Okay, but I just heard the minister say that we don't know how our parents were reared. So now that's having me to think about what happened to her. Okay, she was 14 when she got pregnant with me, 15 when she had me. Something happened to her that had her to be out there in the manner that she was. And then when we were taken from her because her mother said she was too young, she had no idea what she was doing. She couldn't do anything with the child, so I was taken from her and raised by my grandmother. At that point, my mother decided, and my grandmother told her, well, according to my mom, she told her to go and live your life, do whatever you want to do. So on top of being taken from her and her being told to just go on out there and find you something to do, I have no idea what life she pushed herself into or was pushed into. So I'm just really saying that to say that I'm trying to be more sensitive because I don't know what happened to her. I just know my own pain. So I'm going to try to come out of my own pain because I still yearn for my mother at 53 years old. I don't remember learning how to walk with her. I don't remember anything with her. So I still want her, even though, as we're told, look, get over it now. You're grown, you're responsible for yourself, get it together. I'm helped by Randisha, you said something that pushed me also in there. Look, stand up, be a soldier, get it together. You have children now, Shalon. Oh, it's a lot. It's heavy, but I'm pushing through. And each time one of you says something that pushes me a little bit into comfort, I thank you. I'm trying so hard. I just want to share that little bit. Thank you. Assalamu
Wa alaikum salam. All praises due to Allah. I appreciate you, Sister Shalon, as well, for being willing to be vulnerable and be able to share that as well. Because we all have to be reminded of things, and that's the process. We're not say never, I don't want to use that word, but we're on this path to get to a place where we're able to see past our pain. But we have to understand, as the minister brought up in the previous part or the first half of this lecture, that we're made to know pain. So once we understand the lesson that we're being taught, we're able to truly grasp hold of that blessing that we're being given through that trial, through that problem, through that pain, and just being willing to zoom out, because it's easy to zoom in on how it's affecting us. But being willing to zoom out to see the bigger picture, to see what is it molding us into, so that we can handle and help others in their path as well, before they bump their heads or before they make that mistake, or have that warped perspective. We're able to guide them or assist them in guiding them back into the right way as well. So I appreciate you sharing that, Sister Shalon, as well. I'll praise you due to Allah. I seen, before I go to Sister Melva, I seen Sister Marcia. I see you unmuted yourself. Did you have a comment? Okay. All right, Sister Melva, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, family.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you so much for this particular lecture. I love the minister for his transparency and his vulnerability, and what his children went through, and how we're not to stand in judgment of them. I really get it. And I thank the sisters for the points that they brought up this morning. Sister Yasina was saying that Allah took the best of our mothers and our fathers, and that's why we're here. And Sister Shalon, what she's going through, still wrestling about why her mother chose the streets or drugs or whatever it was over her. And I don't know if it was Sister Andisha or Sister Yolanda that was talking about her son. And, he asked her a question and she didn't have the question. Or, you're on the path. Oh, well, why don't you know that? That's children. Their experience is what it is. And the more they grow, the more experience they have. And then they will be able to connect better with what they learn along the way. The older we get, hopefully we become wise. That's not necessarily the truth. When I was born, my dad was in his mid-40s. My mother was in her late 30s. Then my mother died, so I never knew her. Okay? That precious being that the prophet said to the followers, get me straight if I'm off here, 3 times you're to honor your mother before you honor your father 1 time. I have no idea what that means. So I can better understand why the minister says, no matter what your parents have done, you honor them. I get it because I don't know my mom at all. My dad was very abusive. He was a taskmaster, but he was so abusive. Talking about, showing love, he didn't know that. Okay, he was not far up from slavery himself. But as a child, I didn't know that. I hated him. And I told him I hated him because he was mean and he was abusive, psychologically, emotionally, and physically. He was abusive, and I hated him. But you know what? I never went to bed hungry. I always had clothes on my back, and there was food on the table, the best of food, even pork, okay? I mean, beef, pork, lamb, we had it all, okay? We had farmland, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just saying that even though I hated him, I had to look him in his face on his deathbed. And with as much passion as I told him I hated him, I looked him in his eyes and I told him that I loved him. And I'm so glad for all the therapy that I got because my therapist said, because I told him, I said, I can't afford this. He said, you cannot not afford this. He knew something that I did not know. And it was in the nick of time. I got enough therapy from this therapist from the East that I was able to have the wherewithal with so much passion and burning in my face, tears rolling down my face, to say to my dad, I love you. And he said it back to me. Okay, so on his deathbed, that was the first time he saw me. He never saw me when he was up trying to get the cows to the market, trying to make sure there was food in the garden for us to eat and for us to can the food and blah, 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 all of that. I worked my butt off. All of my brothers and sisters did. But it was because of my father that today I know how to cook anything. I know how to plant anything just about. Okay, and so today I honor him. In my 60s, I can look back now and heal the past because I understand it better. You'll understand it better by and by. And I do understand it better. So much better that I can honor him. I can honor my mother who birthed 6 children and then went off the scene and died. I thank my dad for stepping in and all of my relatives coming around. I want this one, I want that one, I want this one. My dad said, oh no, I'm keeping my children and I'm keeping them all together. So all praise be to Allah God, the Most High. For all the suffering that we've gone through, He walked with us and saw us through. And our mothers and our fathers were the best for us, for the lessons we were to learn in this lifetime. And for us to overcome and to be a vessel to help others because of the suffering, the particular suffering that we each went through. Allah brought us through it for us to be a guide and a light to bring others through. So God bless you all. Thank you so much for this moment. It is so healing to be able to share and to be transparent, one with another. Confess your sins. Confess what you go through, one with another. You got to have a strong enough character to deal with people talking about you behind your back. You got to have the character to do what has to be done, no matter what you have to face. Allah will be with you. And all praise be to Him. Have a most beautiful day. Thank you so much for this platform. My heart goes out to Brother Ben and Sister Nani for beautiful little Elijah come home. We're just so grateful. Thank you so much, Brother Ben, Brother Wesley, and the other brother. There was another brother that's been on this. I don't remember his name right now, but thank you to all of you. Thank you so very much. Have a most beautiful, black-tastic day. Assalamu alaikum.
All praises due to Allah. I appreciate you so much, Sister Melva, for sure for that. I believe you were speaking on Brother King Cam that was hosting earlier this week as well. Shout out to the whole team, Sister Alexia, Sister Randisha as well, Sister Quadisa behind the scenes, helping us keep this thing scheduled and things like that. And definitely continue to keep your fellow brother and sister in your prayers. We all are contending with different things. So it's definitely appreciated. All praises due to Allah for that. I got some comments, but I'm gonna wait. Sister Yasina, go ahead. Oh, hold on, you may not be able to unmute. Hold on 1 second. All right, try it again. I'm sorry.
I was getting ready to inbox you to unmute me. Thank you, Sister Melba, for that. That was, absolutely beautiful testimony. And Sister Shalon, as always, made me think about something. And it's what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan reminds us, is that we're not Allah, whatever circumstance that the Quran teaches, everything is by Allah's active and or permissive will. So it's Allah who orchestrated the way that our lives have turned out. So those who, in my case, a mom who was physically present but not spiritually present, wasn't mentally present. Some of you who had your fathers and other relatives, but your moms weren't physically present. It's by Allah's active and or permissive will. So we have to go to the source and ask the source, why did He allow that to happen? And I believe, and I say for my own self, for me, not having my father physically present growing up, and those circumstances that life, kept life in, and I found myself in, it was from Allah, for me to develop a relationship with Allah. It's like the Bible says, mother gone, father gone, a motherless child sees a hard time. But as hard as that time is, look at the relationship that we have with Allah in the person of Master Prophet Muhammad in this day, in this time, and in this hour. is to draw us closer to Him and find that comfort in Him. And remember, like Mother Tynetta said, that we are celestial beings here having a human experience. So when the minister gives us Study Guide 18, rising above emotions, when we weigh down with the pain of things, it disallows us to go from a third dimension into fourth dimension, into fifth dimension, and eventually into the 26th dimension, because pain is one of those things that keep us heavy laden to the earth. So our purpose here is not to, we have the relationship with our families, but our ultimate goal is to be one with Allah. And if we keep our minds on cultivating that relationship with Allah, then we can say praise be to Him for whatever the circumstances were when He brought us forth from the womb of those precious mothers who went to death's door to bring us into existence. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. All praise due to Allah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That kind of correlates to what I wanted to share with the family. And of course, if anyone else has anything they would like to share, please raise your hand if you'd like to, or utilize the Power Call testimonial section as well to be able to share your feedback and your takeaways from the lecture and what you've been inspired to feel and learn from your fellow sister and brother as well. One with 3 points that I wanted to land on, one of which stood out the most for me, is when the minister brought out how we need to fix our relationship with self and our relationship with our Creator as number one. Because once we're able to fix that relationship and we get a better understanding, we tighten that relationship up with Allah, we're able to tighten up all the other relationships that we're in as well. So that's so important and so crucial as we understand that self-improvement is the basis for community development. So if we're striving to build a nation, but we can't build that nation if we don't have a strong family. We can't have a strong family if we're not working on ourselves to be able to improve these relationships in building our families so that we can build the strongest nation as well. So we just want to keep that in mind. I keep that in my mind as well, because like I said, that's the biggest room that we all have, is the room for improvement. I know that's something that I strive to do every day. I say for myself, 1% better every day is 365% better in a year. So that 1%, what can I do today that was better than my yesterday? We fall short, but do we stay down or do we brush ourselves up and get back up? That's what I have to continue to ask myself. Am I going to let this be a reason to stop or a reason to get up and learn and do something better with myself as well? The next point that I brought out as well that I pulled from the lecture, when he was speaking on that need or that seeking for approval and attention, that's something that we've talked about on the Power Call before in reference to the youth, even in reference to us as adults as well, that a lot of the things that we do is really a call out for attention. And as we learn, and as I learned in this particular lecture, that's that deep inside of us. Many of the decisions that I'm making or I have made in the past, many of the mistakes that I've made, the path that I was on, that was a destructive path, was really rebellion. I've shared before, like I said, I've been around these teachings my entire life. My father's been in the nation since 93, 94. So I've been aware of the minister. I've been aware of these teachings. I've been so-called ear hustling the lectures for a long time. And as I got older, I took it upon myself to be able to listen on my own. So I knew right from wrong. I knew what I needed to be doing. And I've always known who I'm able to become now and who I'm striving to become better at now. But meaning when I zoom out and I look at the life choices that I made, I was making those choices out of rebellion, based off of seeking attention and approval from my father. My father worked very hard. He worked overnights. So we didn't have that, all of those moments, that you would look for as a son with your father, playing basketball all the time and learning this, that, and the third. So I began to live a life deviating from what I knew within my heart was true. because I wanted his attention. And then as I began to straighten myself up in certain ways, I would always want to get his validation. And then when you take that and as the minister brought out, how we want to be careful when we seek an approval, because and where we're seeking that approval from, because that can be our destruction if we place it in the wrong area, or if we looking for that approval. And I'm paraphrasing at this point, I don't want to misquote the minister, but we are causing our own demise when we're seeking the approval from the wrong sources. What I understand is that I should be seeking the approval of Allah. That's where the true approval and validation should come from, based off of my actions, not the streets, not my so-called friends and associates, not the workplace, not doing all these other things that I'm using to hide the pain and the problems and the seeking of validation and that insecurity that the minister brought up as well, but to really seek refuge in Allah and be validated in that truth of the reality of God, and having a better understanding and knowledge of self, so that I can rise above those emotions and understand my father better, understand my mother better, understand that the circumstances that I put through, what is it molding me into? Not what it's doing to me, but what is it molding me into, and what is it doing for me to be able to help others that may be going through similar circumstances as well. So just being reminded of that is so important, especially when I see my fellow brothers and sisters that are in the streets as well, or living a life of deviation. I have a better understanding, because I too was trying to get attention from those who really didn't deserve that type of attention. They didn't deserve that type of validation. Who are they to validate what I'm doing is right? Who are they to give me value when Allah has already given me value, already placed the value in me? So I just have to be able to recognize it for what it truly is. And then lastly, just in reference to the raising up of a child, or the training up of a child, on how we should have that balance to build up before we tear down, be able to shed light on what is done right, what is good, before we come with the correction. Yes, the correction is needed, but yet we have to make sure that we add that balance, so that we're not just, as Sister Randisha brought up as well, we don't want to kill that spirit. We want to make sure that we're building them up, letting them know, giving them some measure of praise and approval on what their strides to do right, but then also providing that balance with the correction, so that they can improve, so they can continue on that road as well. So that's very important for me, as I even in what we're doing as well, because that's one thing that being able to have business coaching through Brother Ben as well. That's one thing that the coaches have done for us, is that we talk about, or they share when we do certain audits and things, they share the good first, then they come with what you should improve on. But that it definitely encourages you, because at least you know that you're not just looking at, it's not being just criticized, you're not being just torn down. Yes, there are things you need to improve, because we're all improving, but you need to know what you're doing right, because if you just get what you're doing wrong, you'll feel like you need to throw the whole thing away. So we want to make sure that we provide that balance with one another, with our children, and in every aspect of our life, because it's so critical for our development, that with this path and with us coming out of this condition that we were put in, that we are on the right path. We just have to get that correction to keep us on the right path, or get us from veering off, or moving astray as well. And then lastly, the minister brought up about being self-righteous. And that's something that we've been studying on in study group, which is why it's so good to come to your Friday night study group as well, because in Study Guide 20 on the glossary on page 42, the definition of self-righteous is there. So I just wanted to share that. And what self-righteousness is, or being self-righteous is confident of one's own correctness, smugly moralistic, and intolerant of the opinions and behavior of others. So we just have to really be guarding against being self-righteous, being that thinking that we have it all, thinking that we understand it all, and that everyone else is in the wrong and we in the right, based off of what we think we know. We are all growing and developing. So we just want to guard against self-righteousness, because what your brother and sister is sharing for you, or sharing with you, or the correction that you may be getting, that is there as a blessing, and we should look at it as a blessing, and not as a thing that's causing like they're picking on us. That is something that Allah is revealing to them to share with us, so that we can improve and grow as well. I see Brother Daniel has a comment as well. Go ahead, brother. That's all I wanted to land on.
No, thank you. Beloved, your points were so salient. You were saying some of the things I wanted to point out. One of the things that I take as a takeaway from this message was the great misunderstanding that the believers had about the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, his strictness, his toughness, his unyielding approach to lay the foundation of a nation, which gave way to his divine helper, who would take the time to give the understanding and the explanatory motive of why the Father did what he did. And it helped because our dear brother, War Dean, was hurt by the strictness, by the pain of the soldiers, by the pain of his mother. And he didn't understand his father. And even student minister Ishmael said the pain of his mother, brother minister, my mother. And the minister had to help him to say, have you ever considered the pain of your father? And when he broke that down for him, he began to understand the way of the man, but the pain that the man bears all up in his heart when he has to take certain types of measures and methods when you are raising a nation and bringing to birth that which has never been in existence. And our dear sister Melville, I was so happy to hear her say, I love my father. And I didn't agree with all his methods, but I knew he did the best he could out of love. You know, this is very, very important because from what I understand from my beloved minister, his work was so tough he couldn't throw the ball with his children. He couldn't do those things that show forth that compassionate side of a man. And he said when he would get the complaint from Mother Khadijah about the children acting up, he tied them to the pole and whipped their butt. But it was Mother Khadijah who expressed the deep love of her husband for the children, and she brought that balance to let them know, no, your father loves you, but he's building a nation. So that male-female harmony, where the mother helps to take a man with a mission and let the children know that the love is there, and she balances the man. This is why I know it's so important with the relation that the male and female relate properly under God, so that that harmony and balance is there, where the man can be as compassionate as his soul and time will allow him to be, but he won't negate the mission, trying to be outside of his role. So the importance of the woman is so important. This is why she's 75% of the work, and 75% of what has to be done is with her, because she is the one who swings that love back and forth like a pendulum to keep that family and that nation growing as the man carries the mission. So I'm just elated to hear such balance given, to where the man is not painted as some boogeyman, because the enemy is so busy trying to paint the black man as nothing worthy to respect. But we know different in the nation, because we have the two greatest men ever to be born in front of us, and they are making great men for great women. Well, thank you, family.
All praises due to Allah. Thank you, brother, for sharing that. That was actually, I'm glad you said that, because that was one of the things I meant to touch on as well. So all praises due to Allah, and that divine synchronicity of the family as well, to be able to share these points. And again, that's why it's so important for us to share what we have taken away, what we have learned, and what we are reminded of, because everything that we have within us needs to be shared, because it's somebody that needs to hear that. Someone needs to hear what you've been through. Somebody needs to hear what it is that you've been able to overcome, what you've been able to see for yourself, in yourself as well. And then just like to what you said, Brother Daniel, as well, about how the importance of the woman, and we have to understand that as men. And that's why it was good that we had Monday and Tuesday about knowing our roles. because if we don't understand our roles, we're not able to work together as a unit to be able to provide that context that the child needs, or the youth needs, or the children need, because it can warp the perception. Just as you brought up as well, and as Sister Melva had highlighted on as well, that as a child you're not thinking about the lights being on and food on the table as a symbol of love. And just as the minister brought up today, many of us, we just don't, that's me included, don't understand truly what love means, as we're being reminded of as well. That we have to always remember, what is love? What is the true meaning of love? Not the romantic love, or the love that you feel when you getting some type of benefit or pleasure and things like that. But what is love as a duty and as an action? That verb, you know what I'm saying? So just being reminded of that is such a blessing as well. So I appreciate all of the testimonies that we had today, all of the takeaways and the feedback. I pray everyone has been able to enjoy this lecture. As I can see, we had a lot of feedback today, which is good. I love to hear when the family got something to say as well. We definitely enjoyed it based off of that. If you have anything else further that you would like to share, please put it in the Power Card testimonial. Share your feedback on part 1 and part 2, on what you may have learned on What's Your Role 1 and 2. Those replays are available now in the app as well. So if you missed any of those previous lectures, please go back, look at the Power Card replays, put your testimonials in the testimonial space as well. Just as a reminder, make sure we're utilizing the testimonial space for what we've taken away from the lecture. We have a section for app feedback. So if you have feedback on certain things, that's where you want to drop that in that particular section. But on that particular lectures and the topics that we're speaking on in the mornings, use that Power Card testimonial section. If you're not aware of how to get there, please reach out to the team. We're going to have communication go out soon, just to be able to kind of remind us of how to communicate to the team and who to reach out to and things like that as well. We appreciate all of the feedback. Like I said, our goal is to give as much value and impact as possible with this Power Call. Again, this is your Power Call. So just make sure that we're utilizing this as our Power Call and get as much as we can. Provide the feedback. Inshallah, Brother Ben will be back next week. But if not, we're going to keep it going. We're going to keep on rolling. I appreciate everyone's participation and cooperation throughout this process, this patience throughout this process, as well as we go through the technical difficulties and the kinks and this, that, and the third that happen and rise up. I appreciate everyone continuing to be gracious with us as we overcome those things and push through to be able to deliver this Power Call for y'all every morning. Tomorrow we will continue on. Brother King Cam set the tone in reference to marriages and those in that relationship. So we just keeping it going. Tomorrow we will be building on a strong nation and a strong family. So that'll be a way to kind of cap off this particular week, to keep it on this tangent of well, not tangent, but on this stream of consciousness that we're on, as far as family dynamics, relationships, marital relationships, these type of things that we need to be reminded of, especially in this time that we're in as well, and understanding the importance of family, understanding the importance of relationships, and how to heal from a lot of these traumas that we have that's affecting our relationships, whether it's parental and child, or wife and husband and things like that, business relationships. All of these things are affected based off of how we were as a youth. But we ultimately want to build a strong nation, but that doesn't happen unless we have a strong family. And we can't have a strong family if we as individuals are not working on self as well. So again, I appreciate everybody for tapping in. If you would like to upgrade, please go to www.powercard.net. If you're using your Apple or iPhone device, you will need to use your web browser. But if you're using an Android to access the app, you should be able to upgrade to the premium side within the app as well. That gives you access to the brothers and sisters only chat. That gives you access to the premium community to be able to share live on the call, and also access to the courses that are made available as well on the premium side, and many other things that we have coming down the road. We have book club coming down. We have quite a few things as well. So share your feedback, things that you would like to see in the app. I believe Brother Ben brought the topic up of being able to, in the future, Inshallah, have an in-person power call event as well. So continue to support your power call so that we can bring these things into fruition as well. But just share your feedback, share your takeaways in the power call testimonials. Be able to utilize and go back and look at those replays that are available for the lectures that you may have missed. If you're new to the app, go check out those previous power calls that we've had before and let us know what you think of those and what you learned from that as well. And most importantly, well, not most importantly, but just as important as well, visit your local Muhammad Mosque or study group. Go to www.noistudygroup.com. If you're not sure where your local Muhammad Mosque or study group is in your local area, the sister will reach out to you with the location information and times for your Friday night study group, self-improvement study group, as well as the public meeting on Sunday in the local times in your area for that meeting as well. And as always, be sure to let us know that you've made it out when you do go, so then let us know your experience as well. So I appreciate everybody for tapping in. Inshallah, we'll see you in the morning with another electrifying lecture from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And always have a blacktastic day. Assalamu alaikum.